Want to create accurate shading in your drawing? Of course you do. Well, it all starts with understanding how to shade basic forms, and that's what we're going to take a look at in this video. We're going to start by just creating shapes, and then adding value to those shapes will create the illusion of form. Let's first determine what a shape is, though. A shape, of course, is a flat enclosed line. So if we take a line and close it up, we've created a shape, and in this case we have a circle. But we want to create the illusion of form in our drawing. And of course, the form version of our shape here is a sphere. So how do we do that? Well, we start with a shape, and then by adding value or shading, we create the illusion of a form. Now, this is all created because we have specific locations of value. Value, of course, is the darkness or lightness of a color. It's how we understand the world around us, and of course, most importantly, it's how we understand forms. Now, these locations of value tell us where the light is originating from as well. Now, these locations include the highlight, the area on the form where light is hitting most directly, the midtone, which is a location of middle value, the area of core shadow, where the value is usually the darkest on the form, a reflected highlight, where light is bouncing back off of objects that surround the form, and an area of cast shadow, where light is prevented from hitting because the form is in the way. Now let's take a look at a few practical examples. We'll start by drawing a circle. Remember, the circle is the shape, and I'm just going to draw this circle by moving my shoulder around as I slowly bring the pencil to the surface. Once the circle is in place, we can refine its contours, and then we'll start adding value. I'm going to start in the area of core shadow, and I'm just going to use an H pencil initially. I'll fill in almost the entire sphere with an application of this H pencil. Then I'll go back with a softer graphite pencil. In this case, I'm using a General's Layout pencil, which is about equivalent to a 4B pencil, and progressively darken the area of core shadow. I can go back over the top of this area with another application of the H pencil, smoothing out any of the textural marks that were left by the softer graphite. We'll throw a bit of cast shadow underneath, leaving that area of reflected highlight, and now we've transformed a circle into a sphere. Next, let's take a square and turn it into a cube. We'll start by simply drawing a square. Again, we'll start with the harder graphite pencil initially and progressively move on to the softer graphite pencil. Now, once we have the square in place, we'll just draw 3 lines coming out from each of the 3 corners that are on the far left. And then we'll just connect those ends to finish off the overall form of the cube. Now, again, with our H pencil, we'll go back and we'll start to develop the value. Progressively, we'll get darker with our applications. It's always better when you're working with graphite to make lighter applications initially and progressively get darker. It's considerably easier to make an area darker if you need to, instead of making it lighter if you accidentally make it too dark. Once we've got our initial H pencil applications on the surface, we'll go back with this softer graphite. Again, this is a General's Layout pencil, and start to push the values a bit darker. Of course, our light source is consistent for each of the forms that we're drawing here. In each case, the light source is originating from the upper right-hand corner, meaning for our cube, the top piece will be the area of highlight, the front-facing part of the cube will be the midtone, and then the area on the left side of the cube, of course, is the area of core shadow. Now we'll drop a bit of cast shadow right behind it, and we'll go back and darken up some of the values a bit further, pushing the range of value in this cube. We'll slightly darken the edges right at the bottom, and now we've transformed a square into a cube. Next, let's transform a triangle into a pyramid. Here again, we'll start by drawing the basic shape, which of course is a triangle. Once we have the triangle in place, we'll bring a diagonal line down from the top of the triangle, and then connect the end with the left bottom corner of the triangle. Now we're ready to start adding the value or the shading. Here again, we'll start with the H pencil and progressively get darker with our application. We'll also go back over the top with this softer graphite pencil, making the values quite a bit darker. In the case of the pyramid, we only see the midtone, which is the front-facing side of the pyramid, and the area of core shadow, which is the other side of the pyramid that's visible, the left side of the pyramid. The area of highlight is obscured from this point of view. We'll add a bit of cast shadow, and of course it should follow the same form as what we drew. In this case, it will be a triangular shape. And then we'll go back with the softer graphite, darkening the values even further. We can clean up the applications with the H pencil and smooth out any of the texture that was left by the softer graphite pencil. Of course, in each of these examples, some of the texture or tooth of the paper still is a bit visible. Now let's move on to our fourth form, which of course is a cylinder. We'll start by drawing an ellipse at the top and then 2 vertical lines down from each end of the ellipse. We'll make a curved bottom. A common mistake some folks make is making a straight line across the bottom, forgetting that the cylinder is round, so the bottom portion should be rounded as well. Now, since the cylinder is rounded, we will have a bit of reflected highlight on the far left. Of course, this area of reflected highlight is not very strong, but it still should be present. This means that our area of core shadow will actually be closer to the center portion of the cylinder, although still predominantly on the left side of the cylinder. Once we've got our H applications in place, we'll go back with the softer graphite and again start to darken the values. We can again revisit the applications with the H pencil and smooth the gradations of value a bit further. You'll notice that the value change from the area of core shadow to the area of midtone and highlight is a slow transition. This is called a gradation of value. This is happening, of course, because the cylinder is curved, much like we saw with the sphere. This type of gradation of value is less likely to occur on the cube or the pyramid. We'll add a bit of cast shadow here for the cylinder. Now our cylinder is complete. We'll tackle one final basic form, and of course this will be a cone. We'll start it in a similar manner as we did with the pyramid, but this time we'll add a rounded bottom. Now, just as we saw with the cylinder, there will be a gradation of value, so that means there'll be a smooth transition from the area of core shadow to midtone to finally the highlighted side. This is, of course, because the cone is rounded just like the sphere and just like the cylinder. Again, there'll be an area of reflected highlight on the left side. And again, it's not quite that strong, but it does need to be present. We'll also see that the area of core shadow is closer to the center. It's still predominantly on the left side of the cone, but closer to the center than you might expect. And again, we'll add an area of cast shadow right behind the cone, and of course this should mimic the form of the cone, so it will be triangular in shape. Progressively, we'll get darker with our applications of value, extending the value range and making the contrast a bit stronger. And again, we can go back with the H pencil and smooth out some of the texture that's left by the softer graphite. Understanding how to add shading to basic forms like these will help you tackle even the most complex forms in your own drawings.